Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
This episode is brought to you by Latin Excellence. Visit latinexcellence.com. That's Latinx, CELLENCE.com or latinxmovement.com to learn more and shop our merchandise. You are excellence. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis, and I'm your host. This is a Women's History Month special edition. And of course, I have a special guest. She is a leading speaker, host, and brand ambassador, and has worked alongside top brands like Chase, Mint, ETrade, CNBC, Gemini, AirBnB, Zoom, Altruist, Refinery 29, and more. The list goes on and on, all in an effort to promote financial literacy via media interviews, video content, celebrity, expert interviews, TV appearances, and more. At the age of 22, she began her career as a financial advisor, and at the age of 28, launched her own registered investment advisory firm, Financially Wise, Inc. Over those 15 years, she worked with thousands of clients on their financial journeys. And in 2020, she sold her private practice to focus exclusively on being a speaker, content creator, and brand partnerships. She is the go-to resource for national media. She has definitely paved her own way and created her own lane. She was elected as one of 40 under 40 in 2020 by Investment News, one of 22 women to watch by Investment News in 2018, and was ranked by Investopedia as one of the top influential financial advisors from 2017 and every year counting. Additionally, she serves as the in-house CFP for Mint, as well as the head of education for Altruist, both roles where she can continue her efforts of spreading financial literacy to the masses through media interviews, video content, and social media campaigns. She's also a CFP Pro spokeswoman as part of the CFP Board Center for Financial Planning's campaign to educate minorities about financial planning careers. In 2021, she co-hosted and produced Chantel's Money Moves, a show backed by Facebook to teach Gen Zers personal finance and investing. Away from the office, you can find her meditating, traveling, and one of her favorite things, dancing. Bienvenida. Without further ado, welcome, Brittney Castro.
Thank you so much. Love being here with you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Appreciate, I was thinking about, I'm 100 and something episodes in, and I finally got you to
wow, 100?
Twist your arm. Yeah.
Twist my arm? Nah.
It's all good. I understand, you are super busy, and I appreciate everything you do for the industry, women in specific as well, in terms of empowering them to, lead better lives in general. And I love how you do it in a very fun way. And, we'll be sharing all of your social media outlets so that people can follow you. But before, if you can tell us a bit about your background and your upbringing, that'd be great.
Absolutely. I grew up middle-class family in Los Angeles. My dad was a police officer. My mom stayed at home. My dad's Mexican. My mom's Irish, French, Canadian. Very traditional household, one income, raising 3 kids. So I think early on, we just had a lot of core values of hard work, living within your means. Those things were kind of ingrained, not knowing, of course, when I was young, but later on looking back, thinking, oh, that's probably where I learned some things about money. Went to college, graduated with a degree in business economics, and then I got a job offer as a financial advisor. Had no idea what a financial advisor was. I went to my career counselor. I said, what do you think? She said, take the job because that's how you learn if you like it or not. And she's like, you might like it. It's like in business, you're going to help people and you can make money. And I said, those things sound good to me. So that's what I did. And I have to tell you, those first 4 or 5 years at the first firm were really hard, mainly because I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. I think I was trying to play into that corporate robotic role of, serious, professional, this is how you're going to be successful. And I lost a lot of myself. Like I stopped dancing. I stopped enjoying life. I was really just working all the time. And after, getting some success there, the training experience, I realized if I'm going to stay in this industry, I really just needed to find a way to do it my own version. And at that time, entrepreneurship isn't as trendy as it is today. I think it was just, for me, I was like, I need more freedom. So I went to an independent firm, started over. And after being there for 2 years, that's when I started my own RIA, and I was 28 years old when I did that. And like I said, I never really knew what an entrepreneur was. I just knew I wanted to have my own business, but mainly I just really wanted to have this life that was more authentic to me and my natural talents and personality, and not be so limited with how I'm operating. And we know in finance, there's a lot of regulation, especially under certain models. Broker dealer models have it more than RIA models or independent channels. So it was really just a journey of finding freedom and the ability to run a business. I just wanted to run my business without so much this is how you got to do it in the cookie cutter way, and you're limited with marketing and online marketing. So fortunately, it's in my DNA. I don't know how or what, but to just go, even if I'm scared, I do it. I go for the things I want in life. And I now feel very grateful because I feel like I'm finally, within the last year, probably at a place in my career where I really love the work I do. And it's making the money I want to make, the time commitment, it's not that much. And I sold my book of business, so we could dive into that, but I'm still in finance. So, it's a journey, and it's you're learning about yourself, learning about what works, what doesn't work, finding ways to keep going. It's all of it.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you sharing that because you mentioned showing up as your authentic self. Was there a pivotal moment that you can think back on where you realized, this is not me. I just can't continue doing this, and I just got to go and create my own path?
Yeah, I remember it was the recession of 2009 when that started. I remember a lot of the rules changed at the first company I was at, meaning we used to have this ability to go. They called it a different platform, like P1, P2. Anyway, there's this ability to go to a different platform where you could have your practice and build equity. But when the recession hit, they changed all of that. And so it wasn't an option anymore. And I just thought, I don't know if I could stay in finance. I'm not, believe it or not, finance is not my passion. I'm good at it, but running a business is I'm a passionate person. So anything I do, I bring my passion. And I just remember being sick a lot. I was just run down all the time because I was working too much. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. And all of those things, fortunately, I think I was 26. I kind of figured it out young. I can't do this. I can't do this for the rest of my life like this. This is not going to work. So it was just kind of one of those, when the pain gets too much, where you're kind of forced to change. So I was looking for options. I would go on LinkedIn and just try to connect with people. And then I randomly connected with these financial advisors from LPL Financial, and they were younger. I think they were in their 30s. And I was in my 20s at that time. And they had their own shop. And so they somehow found me or whatever. We connected. And then they said, why don't you come over and check out our office? We're with LPL. It's independent, but you could join our office. And that way you can share overhead. It's not that big of a transition. And I was so scared. I remember just being I don't know who these people are, so not trustworthy. But somehow I did it. I made the leap, and it all worked out from there.
Gotcha. No, that's pretty cool. And I'm sure that a lot of women go through that where they feel like they have to live a specific role that is kind of set out by society, right? Societal norms and cultural norms sometimes. Is there anything that you can think of as far as how you're able to just push beyond your comfort zone, and just go for it anyway? What's your thought process behind that?
Now I just feel like I have a more tolerance for it, meaning I've done it enough times in my life that even when it's uncomfortable, I know the benefits of changing. And the way I see it is any change is better than no change. And there's no such thing as failure. I can't fail no matter what, in love, in relationships, in business, because really, if it doesn't work out the way you thought it would, at least you learned, at least you tried, at least you now know you have no regrets, and then can do this new path or whatever, or do it again and be that much better when you do it the second time or the third time. So I think it's just listening to your gut, listening to your intuition, especially if you're a woman. Oftentimes we know, but we choose not to listen.
Right.
But then there's going to come a point where you just have to build up enough courage and live fearlessly. I mean, even I was just talking to my mom this week, and she was saying you have some fear in this one area of my life, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're right. Why do I have fear? And then so we just talked about like the worst case scenario that could happen, and then it's not even that bad. And I was like, oh my God, see, that's so funny. Like I'm holding back. Like anytime I hold back, I feel it. I know, and so I know then that's like a reason to go, like a reason to push through. Because for me, then I just learn so much.
Yeah, I really love that. It's like life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So I like how you have the internal guide where you're like, all right, this is that moment now. I need, and I like the way you think about it too, because sometimes we build up something in our head and we relive the worst case scenario that really wasn't that bad anyway. So true. So thank you for sharing that. And I really appreciate that. So I know that you sold your practice, and back then you were working with people usually between the ages of 25 and 34, more or less, right?
Yeah. So when I started my RIA, I went after young professionals, specifically women. I started the company called Financially Wise Women to brand myself as the go-to financial planner in LA for women. And that was my niche for many years. And then I think the last 3 or 4 years of the RIA, I had the RIA for 8 years. I expanded, probably the last 3 years, I just expanded it and called it Financially Wise Inc. because I was working with a lot of couples and men, and I didn't want to just niche toward the women's segment anymore because it's an evolution. It was like the next stage anyway. But I do think that's important when you're starting your brand or your company to really figure out who are you trying to serve and become known in that space first, because it really, for me, that's what helped get my speaking gigs, the recognition in the financial planning industry, all this like media attention. It was mainly because I was so good, and I think I still am, at branding myself to a specific group of people, or like my brand is very specific. It's like me, and it stands out. And so I think now it's almost like default, we have to do that. But 10 years ago, that wasn't not really the case. But I still think there's a huge opportunity for financial advisors to get way more specific with who they are, their brand in the marketplace, to really get more business, to get more clients, get more speaking. The whole idea is you want more people to come to you. And if they know who you are, they'll come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that that's one of the things you're working on now, as well as helping financial advisors kind of avoid some of the mistakes that, some people make sometimes because they just don't know what they don't know, right? So you kind of have a blueprint. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I decided after selling my practice in 2020 and kind of coasting for a little bit, I still do brand partnerships and speaking. That's my love, and it's like my full-time kind of gig. But I hired a business coach this beginning of this year because I realized, okay, I kind of wanted to do something under my umbrella again. That wasn't just always working with companies, which I love, and she said, why don't you just create a program and teach financial advisors what you did? And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty easy. And she's like, okay, we'll do it by next week. And I said, oh. So she, I literally threw up some social media posts, and I got 60 calls booked, and it was amazing. So I'm teaching financial advisors, really anybody who, even real estate brokers, mortgage brokers, anybody who has to generate business on a regular basis. I'm teaching them what I did, which is I build a brand, create a marketing strategy and funnel that drives traffic to your website on an ongoing basis. Because every year I get 300 to 400 inbound prospects per year.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Just through content creation, get paid speaking, do video marketing, partnerships, manage their business. So really just leveraging content to drive more business, whether it's client speaking gigs, brand partnerships, to your business. So that's what I'm teaching. It's a great program. It starts in May. It's a 6-month program, group program. And I'll definitely, if you want more information, it's BrittneyCastroBB.com. So businessbootcamp.com, because I'm enrolling now.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And I'll be sure to share the link in the show notes, BrittneyCastroBB.com.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now I appreciate that. I'm sure that a lot of advisors will flock to that website because, I always felt like you're doing something very unique. And like I said in the intro, I feel like you created your own lane. It's like, it's not really like you don't go to school for this, right? It's
No school.
Yeah, it's something absolutely unique. I wanted to ask you something. This is completely unrelated to what we're talking about, but you mentioned your parents, Mexican and French Canadian. Tell me about the food growing up.
Well, my mom is very American. So although she's a combo of many, many things, honestly, our food growing up was very American, unless we were going to my dad's side of the family, then it was like, obviously, like tortillas and beans all the time. I loved it. My grandma would make the best tortillas, like anything. We would just go to her house and she's like, "Oh, you hungry?" Like any
Homemade, yeah.
grandma. And she just whips up something with, you're like, wow, how did you just whip up, like chicken, rice, beans, and tortillas? That was so good.
Yeah.
But like when my mom would cook for us, it was just a lot of very like American food, spaghetti, lasagna,
Gotcha.
And yeah.
That's cool. So tell me about some financial tips that your parents passed on to you that you kind of later realized, because you mentioned that at the beginning where you were like, I think that's where I got some of the stuff about money from my upbringing.
So my dad went to work, and so we had, his income, and my mom was just like, obviously like raising us. And so she was just really good at budgeting. She kind of took care of the household finances, which a lot of women do for the household. And, I just remember oftentimes she would say like, this is our budget. This is our budget. We go to the grocery store, she had coupons. That was like back in the day when they would use coupons. And she was just really good at it. And my dad, I remember when I was 16, he helped me get my first credit card because he understood credit enough to help us get our credit card cosign. And that was good. It was an American Express. And he said, only charge your gas and just make sure you pay it off in full every month. And obviously he was co-account owner, so he knew, he tracked it. And I had a job. And my parents would give us like, I think like whatever allowance. And then if we wanted more, we'd have to do chores it was very known. If you want more money, by the time you're 16, go get a job and go get more money. So my older brother, me, like we all did. That's what we did.
Yeah.
Which was great because we have a strong work ethic, which is, I think, very wonderful to have right now. But like little things, just budgeting. I remember the credit card too. I think those two biggest things were really, and later, they owned real estate. But when I started at 22 as a financial advisor, that's when I took over their finances and helped them like grow their money through investing in the stock market, getting insurance in place to protect everything, their trust done. So it was like they knew the basics, they had the basics, and they were really good at it. But then I help them learn and implement beyond, with investing and insurance.
Yeah, they had a solid foundation. That's great. How did it make you feel to get to that point where now you were giving them financial advice?
It was really cool. At that time I was like so serious. I was like, I can help you. It's just like great to be able to help them and kind of identify. And they're so loving and sweet. They always trusted me and like were like supportive of whatever I was recommending because they knew I was learning this and I could do a better job. And even now, like their way, like, we kind of all kind of help them, but it is cool. And it's like, anytime you mix family and money, it's also that you have to work through some things, right? Because then I went on my whole like self-discovery journey where I started to learn more about myself and what I learned growing up and what doesn't work for me anymore, and how do I create like wealth consciousness and like learn beyond just, where I came from. So you kind of see like, yeah, it's great, whatever we get through our family or school or society, but then you have to, like, at some point in your adult life, decide, is that going to serve you or not? And if it's not going to serve you, go get the right mindset, the right tools, whatever you need to serve you. Don't be a victim. I think it's easy to say, I'm a victim, I didn't learn this growing up. Well, nobody did. Nobody got a financial education growing up. So at some point we all have to learn it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's so unfortunate because I know some schools, some states are requiring some sort of financial education as part of the curriculum. But yeah, it's a lot of the things that we really don't learn at home. I came from the Dominican Republic at age 11, and my parents, what I did learn was the hard work ethic, for sure. Similar to you, where my parents told me they're going to give me a roof over my head, food on the table, and anything else that I wanted, I had to go out and get myself. Right. So like, when the Jordans, the Calvin Kleins, all that stuff, like they were not, they just couldn't, So I worked from a very young age, but I like how your dad gave you the solid foundation of making you a co-signer on one of his cars. So you started building that history. And then
it was amazing. Well, when I graduated college, I remember I had like 70,000 available to me.
That's amazing.
In a credit line, probably between a few cards, which I had no idea what that meant. I mean, I was like, great. But yeah, I mean, the power of just starting early is wonderful.
Yeah. So for parents listening, this is a great tool that you can do with your kids as well. Obviously, there's a responsible way of doing it, but because credit is indeed needed, right? And I think the mismanagement of it is what gets you into trouble. But if you use credit cards, you use them right, like Brittney was doing, just put gas on it or whatever, pay it at the end of the month. You don't need to carry a balance. You don't need to pay interest to build credit. You just have the account open and use it properly. And that's going to set you a very long way. I unfortunately did not learn that until later. I got credit cards in college and I ran up a ton of debt using it to go to spring break to Cancun. So I learned the hard way, having balances. And
hope that spring break was fun, though.
Indeed. They went down in history. Absolutely.
One to remember.
One to remember.
Pay off later for years.
One to remember for many reasons, absolutely. But it was a big learning experience for me. And I didn't have the ability to, like my parents, since we came from the Dominican Republic and they didn't know English, they didn't know the system here. So they couldn't be like, hey, here's how a credit card works or any of that stuff. So it was
it's
very unfortunate.
Remarkable. I think about this often, because I know a lot of people who came here. I mean, it's so amazing, but like to come to a new country and like try to figure out how to navigate all of this. And like a lot of the, like different countries, they don't leverage credit and debt like America does, so that whole thing of like leverage debt to buy a house, it's like so foreign. But I don't know. I just think it's remarkable. Anybody who is like immigrant, first generation, I'm like, wow, really impressive.
Yeah, because you have to learn the language first. We had to learn English and then the system. And, I remember growing up in the Dominican Republic, like if my parents wanted to buy something, let's say like a kitchen table or something, like there was something called layaway. I don't even know if that exists anymore, but you basically just put a deposit on this thing and you went like every week and kept adding money to it. And eventually when you have paid it, then you got it, right? So it was like credit, but you didn't get the thing up front. It was like such a sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was one of the very few memories I have from growing up.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So, I know a lot of us don't learn this in school. So what are some of the ways, like, I know that you were working with people somewhere in that range of 25 to 34 years. What are some of the most common financial mistakes that you found that the groups in that age range were making?
I would say at that time, it's just probably a lack of like investing. A lot of times people start making good money during those years, and then they build cash, but they're like unsure what next to do, investing in more real estate or the stock market. And I think this is like a huge opportunity for all of us. I almost feel too like the pandemic really changed a lot, and almost like many people feel this, are like starting over in a way, or have this new version of their life. And so it's such a great opportune time to reevaluate and say, okay, whatever the past is the past. Now what can I do moving forward? And maybe that means taking more risk. This age group too is also, you're taking risks. Maybe you get married, maybe you get divorced, maybe you have a kid or relocate, changing jobs, you start a business. I mean, I experienced a lot of that, and during those years, and I'm still kind of in those years. So it's like you kind of want to have some flexibility in your financial plan. So it's weird because I feel like now we're way more open to this idea of flexibility and being able to pivot. But like even 5 years ago, the conversation was still about helping people understand, okay, it's not like our parents, like you just work one job and save and then retire, because that was what we were fed. So it's almost like the millennial generation had to work through those rules that no longer worked. And this younger generation, I think, is like, cool, I'm an entrepreneur, like I'm investing in crypto and investing in the stock market on my apps. They're like so into it. I don't know. It's like they don't have to overcome all these roadblocks. Yes, they have their own other things that they got to work through. But I guess I say all that to say, like, nowadays, just have a lot of flexibility in your financial plan because things change all the time, and figure out what ultimately you want to use your money for. And yes, we need to invest for the future, but also don't get locked down by those retirement and It's just like, life isn't like that. Of course we want to invest and grow money, but you got to kind of figure out a balance.
Yeah, find that balance. I love that. Yeah, I saw an interview that you did recently, and you talked about specifically that topic, how you can use, things like a raise or a bonus to kind of just spread out in percentages. And I believe you used that as like a third, and a third, right? And it was kind of like, all right, I'm going to use a third to treat myself, and then a third to maybe invest.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really empowering because I like the concept around it, because it's like, you're not letting lifestyle creep take over, right? And just like elevate your lifestyle to match your new income, but you are still treating yourself, and then you can feel good about it, right? Because you're also putting money away for your future. So I love that balance mentality. And I wanted to ask you about how your passion for empowering women through finances is crucial, because I know you had mentioned before how men and women approach financial decisions differently. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, men and women are different, right? So a lot of times women,
Big time.
Yeah, women need more like talk things out holistically. How does this work? They more like theory, high level, maybe not so interested in the standard deviation of the stock or what the stock is trading at right now. It's more, is this enough? Is this going to take care of my family? Okay, great. Now I can move on with my day and go do something else.
Right.
Versus a stereotype with men, it's just like kind of the nature, right? They're more of the hunters. And so they're like more like the hot stock. Is this the best business idea? Is this the best way to make money? How am I making more money? And they're more interested. Even the stock market, I would say, is so masculine the way it's these charts and
we need some pink charts.
What's up? What's down? Not pink. I just think it's like,
no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's just more like that's just what they do. That's what they're interested in. So I think when you talk to men and women, I mean, obviously it's 2022, so there's a lot of variables here that I'm not talking about. But when you're talking about men and women, I think you just have to be understanding that they're going to talk about money differently. The strategy is the same. Tips might be the same, but they're going to hear it differently. So oftentimes, especially with women, I would say they feel unheard. They feel like they're being talked down to by the financial professionals that they work with. I mean, we've seen stats where once they become a widow. 70% of them change financial advisors. So I think it's just a matter of learning who your audience is and being able to connect with them on a real level and give them what they need. And if you're a financial planner or advisor and want to have that longevity, sustainability with your clientele, this is really important. You got to know how to communicate with them in a way that they feel they're getting the value, because if not, they're going to find someone new. And it's so much easier to find someone new now that we're in this virtual world. They just go online and find someone else.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's very unfortunate. I think that I've heard stories like that in the past where a couple would go work with a financial advisor and like the financial advisor didn't even like address the woman, it like just all the questions were directed towards the male, it's like you're talking to two people here, right? Very unfortunate. But I think that that's changing, especially as more younger and diverse planners enter our industry. I think the mentality is different. So that's great to see. I wanted to ask you about the decision to sell your firm and then focus more on what you're doing now. And what was the thought process behind that?
My vision when I started my RAA was always to have a business that was more than just financial planning. So in the first year, I developed like brand partnerships, which I didn't know that at the time, but I got this deal with an entrepreneur focused company where I was their spokesperson. And for like 3 years, I created videos, did interviews, was like talking at their events, got a lot of media training. Then I switched to work with Chase, and then I eventually launched online courses. So I was always building like a business. And I knew at some point, whenever those other sides of the business really, like the brand deals, the speaking, made enough money, I needed to consider what I wanted to do with the financial planning practice, because it's so much time. I would either need to bring in another person or find an exit. Well, my exit was always find another firm who could manage it for me, because I'm not a good manager. I didn't ever want that business where people are under me, although I know that could be a good business. It's just not my personality. Like if I had someone else, like a partner, and they wanted to do that, and I mean, I just know my sweet spot and I know what works for me. So that was my vision. And then I finally grew it to a point, I think in like 2019, where the financial planning and the speaking and brand partnerships were equal revenue. And that's when I was like, okay, now it's time to start looking for who could buy my practice. And I think it took me like 18 months to find the right buyer, 7 or 8 conversations, 7 or 8 deals on the table.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not about money. I turned down more money to find the right person and firm who could take over the existing clientele, serve them in a way that felt good to me, authentic, and I could walk away feeling, yeah, I did the best thing for them, for me, for everybody. And now we still have a referral relationship where I send referrals to her firm and they still service them and I get a cut, which is great. But yeah, like I said, I think like this year, 2022, it is truly the year of like, this is my business, like the business I've wanted, which is just all my time on these brand partnerships and speaking. And I mean, I literally just create TikTok videos for a living nowadays. And it's amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But I couldn't have done it and make this much, good enough money if I didn't have all that experience. So I guess it is all stepping stones, even though sometimes you feel like none of it's working and you just get beat down all the time, because we both know it's not glamorous. It looks glamorous and oftentimes it's very fun, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes when you're running a business. That's just not, it's hard work, and you gotta tough. You gotta be tough.
100% agreed. I definitely revisit that process a lot of the times. Like, man, this is tough. Like just being a business owner in general, because as a result, you don't get to do 100% of the time the thing that it is that you want to do, right? Because you have to actually run the business side of it as well.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's why I say too, even now, I feel like I'm doing not 100%, but closer to 100% of the things I've been wanting to do. But it took me a while to get here.
Yeah.
There's still stuff I don't want to do, but it's not as,
No, for sure. Yeah. No, well, congratulations with that. I'm really happy to hear
thank you.
that.
Thank
For
you.
sure. But I like how, you mentioned that a lot of times we feel like things aren't working out and maybe you think you took a step backwards or you're going the wrong direction, but it's all a matter of continuously doing it. And worst case, you learn something, right? And just keep it moving. So I love that. Another question for you was about people now that feel like they can't save or invest. Like what is some advice for somebody who hasn't even gotten started on their journey yet that you would say, hey, here's something you can do to get started?
I'll start small, really open up a high yield savings account, put $50 a month into it. Open up an investment account, put $50 a month. Really, I know this sounds so cliche, but it really is small things. And I've made the mistake before of like, because I'm a business owner, so sometimes I get more lump sum money than other months. And I'll like get all like extra excited and then like overdo it.
Right.
I'm like, oh, but I kind of need that for my cash flow now, So it's like baby steps, and it really is just all of those things do add up over time. So if someone wants to get started, set up the account, set up something that's automatic, and work those numbers into your budget. And that's obviously the other one is budgeting. Most people don't do it, don't want to do it. You got to find a system that works for you. So whether it's checking in monthly on your accounts, with a pen and paper, with an app, whatever it's going to take, you got to do it, because it's the only way you're going to know how much money's coming in and where is it going, and how do you make it better if you don't like what you see.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that advice, because I remember when I first started investing in the early 2000s, it was a mutual fund. It was like $25 a month, but it becomes like a positive addiction. At some point you can do 50 and then 75, then 100, right? And you just continue to add to it. Yeah. and it becomes just a habit. It's like a muscle, right?
Yeah.
For sure. So I think you're right. The small things are the things that ultimately we have a larger impact because of the consistency on it. So you might not feel like $50 a month is a lot right now, but you start building that muscle and become, stronger at it. Because I feel like when people go from zero to getting a big contract, I mean, we see that all the time with like athletes and famous people that sometimes they have a lot of money, but they never had the basis of literally just like budgeting and looking at their numbers, right? And all of a sudden they owe millions to the IRS and they're like on this big trouble and go bankrupt several years after earning millions and millions. So this is a problem that happens to people with money as well, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Where can we find you on social media?
Come just to BrittneyCastro.com, because then you'll find all my social media. But right now, Instagram and TikTok are where I'm producing daily videos. So Brittney Castro on Instagram, and then it's Brittney Castro 33 on TikTok.
Got it. Yeah. And I'll be sharing those on the show notes as well. So one last thing I wanted to ask you. You were on an elevator ride with someone. It's going to be like 30 seconds. And you will not see them ever again. And they don't know your name, so they can't go to BrittneyCastro.com. What is something that you would like them to leave with that, you had 30 seconds to say, hey, here's what I know about life that I would love for you to know as well.
Wow, I love it. Here's what I know about life that I would love for you to know as well. It's precious. It all changes. It's all temporary. So live fully, dive in, love fully. Don't think so much. Have as much fun as you can. And yeah, whatever's happening, accept it, enjoy it, dance with it, because it's going to change anyway.
Right. I love it. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm glad we finally got you to come here after 100 episodes.
I'm so honored to be here. I enjoy you, and you're so amazing. And I love all you do in the financial planning community.
Thank you. Likewise as well. So everyone, thank you all for tuning in. Remember to go to BrittneyCastro.com to learn more about Brittney and connect with her on social media. She hosts great content, always very educational and fun. So you're going to see some of our dance moves as well.
Yes.
So be ready for that. Well, thank you all for tuning in. If you have any questions, as always, send an email, Luis@onmywaytowealth.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.